Streaming live on WFLA Now. Powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY. Here's JB Buno.
Moments ago, Brian Laundrie's father, Chris Laundrie, leaving his Northport, Florida home and driving right here to the Carlton Reserve, where Eagle 8 HD is in the air on the Myakkahatchee side. Chris Laundrie now, according to his attorney, actively involved in the search for his son, Brian Laundrie. Hey there, folks. JB Buno here with you live on WFLA Now. We've got, of course, Eagle 8 HD's Paul Lamison in the air. Let's see if we can...
Searching yesterday. Now, apparently the family or the dad should be out here. He said he would be involved in the search, so we're going to look to see where they're actually looking. Now, yesterday we were down here as well, and we saw a lot more cars than we had in the previous days. The issue is when the people get out into the wooded area, it's almost impossible to see them, and that's the same thing they're running up. So we're trying to see what they can find. I know yesterday they had a drone flying, but today it's a little bit different, and so we're going to keep looking. And Stacy, any new developments, we'll have them later on in the newscast. Back to you.
And again, that's Paul Lamison, the voice of Eagle 8 HD here, just arriving on the scene. So if you're just joining us here, everybody, on WFLA Now, Eagle 8 HD arriving here at the Carlton Reserve here a short time ago, and you haven't missed much. We're, of course, right now in the air following law enforcement here and also keeping our eyes peeled here for Chris Laundrie. Chris Laundrie, of course, the father of Brian Laundrie here, who, again, in the video that we just showed you here a moment ago, this was this morning, leaving his home here with a plastic bag, entering here his red Dodge Ram. He left, made a stop, according to some of the Twitter activity that we were following, and then, of course, went over to the Myakkahatchee side of the Carlton Reserve. So Chris Laundrie here now involved in the search, and this according to the attorney. We'll go back here to Eagle 8 HD. Attorney Stephen Bertolino. Chris Laundrie is assisting law enforcement today in the search for Brian. This is a statement that just came out here and is available, of course, on Twitter.
Hey, just a heads up, we haven't seen any vehicles out here in the reserve yet.
Paul's mic is open, so we're hearing from Paul Lamison here, folks, and we'll try to check in with Paul here and communicate with him over the radio here in just a moment. But again, this is the statement here from attorney Stephen Bertolino, who released to 8 on Your Side's Masa Saidi, who, of course, has been with us on our WFLA Now streams, saying this: Chris Laundrie is assisting law enforcement today in the search for Brian. Chris was asked to point out any favorite trails or spots that Brian may have used in the preserve. Although Chris and Roberta Laundrie provided this information verbally 3 weeks ago, it is now thought that on-site assistance may be better. The preserve has been closed to the public and the Laundries as well, but the parents have been cooperating since the search began. That's the statement released to WFLA's Masa Saidi here from, again, attorney Stephen Bertolino, who represents the Laundrie family here. So we showed you the video here a moment ago of Chris Laundrie leaving his home. He has arrived here at the scene, but now we're not exactly sure where this goes from here. But we're going to stay here with you live on WFLA Now. We're going to stay here with you live with Eagle 8 HD and keep Eagle 8 HD in the air here as we kind of sort through exactly what's happening here. Very interesting here in the statement. And I want to read this middle section here again. Chris was asked to point out any favorite trails or spots that Brian may have used in the preserve. Although Chris and Roberta Laundrie provided this information verbally 3 weeks ago, it is now thought that on-site assistance may be better. So having Chris Laundrie here at the scene is now, in the estimations, according to Stephen Bertolino, the right approach here as far as assisting law enforcement and helping to find Brian Laundrie. Now, it's interesting, Josh Taylor of Northport Police putting out last night, when this all, of course, started making the rounds on social media, when the reports made the rounds on social media, Josh Taylor put out that Northport Police did not request Brian Laundrie's involvement here actively on the ground here at the Carlton Reserve here. So this all we have to go on right now is Stephen Bertolino, the attorney for the Laundrie family here, releasing this statement because, of course, as we've been saying here over the last several weeks, we're not going to get anything from the FBI. The FBI isn't going to release a statement saying we asked for Chris Laundrie to be here today to help us out. We're not going to get any sort of statement from them in that capacity. So let's go back here live from Eagle 8 HD. Let's see if we can check in with Eagle 8 HD's Paul Lamison. Hey there, Paul. It's JB checking in. Do you have us? And Paul is currently on the air on our WFLA midday newscast, the 11 a.m. newscast right now. And when his radio is able to open up, we'll be able to interact with him here. But let's just kind of point out here what this could be as far as now. Paul, who you just heard here at the top of the stream, said that he just arrived and he hasn't seen the same activity. Let's go back in the time machine. Let's go to yesterday here. This is what it looked like yesterday. Vehicles here, drones in the air, or at least one drone in the air. There was a canine and a canine handler here as well. Bradenton police here on the power line trail here. And we saw a lot of activity, about 14, 15 vehicles here fanning out, checking a couple of different areas here at the Carlton Reserve here. And it's interesting to note that this occurred a little bit later on in the day. So there could be search efforts that are now just beginning here at the Carlton Reserve. They could be, of course, having a meeting. And we have seen this pretty much every morning since there have been ongoing search efforts here at the Carlton Reserve. Everybody kind of comes together, congregates, meets, discusses what the plan is for the day. And it'll be very interesting to see if that meeting does, in fact, happen here and whether or not Brian Laundrie's father, Chris Laundrie, is going to be in that meeting and kind of leading or at least hearing what the strategy is for today. As we noted, a K9 here. So that video from yesterday, let's go back now here live to Eagle 8 HD. So Paul right now scanning the skies here, scanning from the sky here, the Carlton Reserve, looking for, we'll see if Paul's opening his mic here. We'll listen in.
Yeah, let's go back.
Paul again live on our 11 o'clock newscast here on your NBC station, WFLA News Channel 8 on your side here in Tampa Bay. So Paul communicating with our control room here, and we'll be able to communicate with Paul ourselves here in a little bit. But again, this is just how vast this area is. But there's two entryways here. There's the Myakkahatchee side.
Hey, if you guys can hear me, could you please turn off IFB so JB can talk to me?
Thanks, Paul. And now we might be able to bring in Paul Lamson. Paul, do you have us?
Yeah, hey JB, I do have you now, and we are over the Carlton Reserve. What we did since we got here, we saw the truck is over by the gazebo by the Myakkahatchee entrance to the Carlton Reserve, and we are over the middle of it where we were looking yesterday. We've been searching this power line road up and down to try to find vehicles. Now apparently they are in vehicles out here somewhere in the reserve searching. We've been going up and down the road where we saw the crews yesterday searching. So far we haven't seen any, but we're going to continue to look. That's what we're doing now. And again, we're looking for any activity out in the wooded area. Now one thing we have on our side, the reserve is still pretty wet, so you can't just drive anywhere. You have to pretty much stick on the roadways. So that's what we're looking for now as we fly. We're going to go down the roadways and look to see if we see any searching out in the actual reserve. Now in a little bit we're going to go back over to the entranceway and we can try to show you the truck where he parked it. But right now we're looking for other stuff. Hang on a second, JB.
10-4, Paul.
Okay, JB, sorry about that. We're going to look a little more. I was listening to air-to-air traffic. And so what I'm going to show you now, JB, we're over the reserve, and that's another station helicopter, sorry. I didn't want to get that in. But here, we'll move over here and show you kind of where they started and where they're looking and where they're going. But right now, we haven't seen people on foot. Now yesterday the people we saw were wearing camouflage. So if they go in under these trees that you're looking at, they can very easily disappear and it's next to impossible to see them. So here's the bridge where they came across from the reserve. Right over here, this is where all the media is parked. I'll try to show you his car. It's going to be over by a gazebo over in this area once we get over it. Here's the gazebo. And then the truck's going to be up under one of these trees parked, and we'll try to get a shot of it for you. So over in this area, and it's going to be underneath the tree. Here's a white truck that they have some ATVs on the back of. Now we're going to keep going and look within the trees. This is where the truck is parked, and it's tough to see because it's actually underneath trees. And then we're going to take you out into the park and look. But again, this is the area where he came into and parked the truck. There's another vehicle right here. And the truck is supposedly over in the tree line area. It's really tough to see, and we'll keep looking to show you. Right, there it is right there. There's the front of the truck. That's the laundry pickup truck right there in the trees. It's really tough to see. It's really hidden. So we'll show you that, and this is the entranceway to the park. This is where the park starts. This is where they believe Brian started. I'm going to get you one more shot of that truck for you, JB. But again, it's up under those trees, and I'll show you where we are. But here's the beginning of the park. This bridge is where they feel they came across it. Once you're across it, you're actually into Carlton Reserve. Now, I'm going to try to get you one more shot of the truck. And JB, this is what they're looking at out here as well. The difficulty we're having just finding a truck. Imagine if you're trying to find a person who doesn't want to be found out in this area. That's what we're dealing with. So here you go, JB. I'm going to go out look out the door. And we're going to give you the truck right here. Hang on. Right here. Sorry about that, JB. Hang on. Right in here. Here's the truck.
Split screen here, left side of your screen live.
So here's a good shot of his truck, JB.
Yep, and right side of your screen, the clip from this morning.
This is the laundry truck. This is the one that tows the camper. This is the one that's always in front of the house. Now, he's not in the truck. He has gotten into law enforcement vehicles and gone out into the reserve, and that's what we've been trying to find earlier, and we haven't seen any other vehicles. But right there is a shot of his truck. We'll give you that for a minute. Then we're going to go across and head into the reserve and go to the south where he normally goes, apparently. So here's the truck, JB. We'll let you look at it for another couple minutes. But this is the entranceway to the Myakkahatchee Environmental Park, which is just right next to the Carlton Reserve. So again, here's the truck. Okay, now we'll go across and into the reserve, JB. So the truck is parked right in here, and they go across. There's a bridge right here, and then they've been searching this power line road, and we're going to go to the south and see if we see anybody out in the area. Now again, a lot of the areas you can't drive into because the car will get stuck or a vehicle will get stuck. So now we're just going to fly and see if we see any activity in this area. We've been looking earlier, we didn't see any. Now there's different roads you can get out onto. So JB, I will throw it back to you, and we're going to continue looking for the search, and we'll let you know if we find anything. I'll get on the microphone and let you know. But JB, back to you.
Paul, real quick here, some of our commenters have agreed here in our Facebook and YouTube live comment sections here that the search for today might not actually be underway yet. There could be some form of a pre-search meeting going on here, as we've seen with previous days, them congregating, coming together, discussing the strategy for the day, and then fanning out into the reserve. So have you seen any signs of any sort of a meeting being held by law enforcement here today?
No, that's what we were looking for, JB. When we first got here, we wanted to try to get a lay of the land, so we went back to the area where they were in yesterday, where they had kind of like a big search area, and we didn't see anything. And we followed that power line road, which is one of the main throughways in and out of this park, and we didn't see anything there. Now I'm looking over here. Now that's just a box in a different park area, portalet, but there's only so many places you can drive in a vehicle out here because the roadways are so flooded that's what we're looking at now. And so we're flying the area looking for any signs of vehicles out in the area, but we haven't seen where they've been having a meeting, which doesn't mean they're not having a meeting. It just means we haven't found it yet. And so that's what we're doing now. We're flying over the area, going on any really roads they can drive on and trying to follow them. Like here, we'll show you right here. Right out of my door, here's a roadway they can drive on, but say they drive on that, in a minute they're like under really heavily wooded trees, then they can get out the other side. So that's what we're looking at now, JB. Any signs of any vehicles out in the Carlton Reserve, and as of yet we haven't seen them, but we're going to keep looking.
10-4, Paul. We will leave your mic open, and if you spot something of interest for, of course, our audience here live on WFLA Now, I'll leave your mic open, and feel free to just chime in.
We'll do it. Thank you, JB. We'll keep looking.
Paul Lamison for us here, everybody, the voice of Eagle 8 HD. And again, we will keep his microphone open as you're, again, joining us across many platforms, WFLA.com, the WFLA app, YouTube, and Facebook. Hello to our social media audience, of course, as we have in previous weeks. You can use hashtag HeyJB, and we can feature some of your comments here out of the Facebook Live and YouTube Live comment sections here. No activity really being spotted here by Eagle 8 HD yet, but that could change here in the minutes ahead once the active search gets underway, unless the active search is already underway. But because of how heavily dense and wooded some of these areas are, it could be on foot here in some of the areas that you're looking at here as far as the Carlton Reserve. So Eagle 8 HD, there's no one better than Paul Lamison to be scanning, of course, the ground here, looking for activity here, and we'll keep his mic open, and he can chime in as soon as he finds something from, again, Eagle 8 HD. Okay, let's take some of the Facebook Live questions and YouTube Live questions that are coming in. You can use hashtag HeyJB, and we'll keep Eagle 8 HD, of course, up here so that you can follow this. I can follow this. We can listen for Paul here together. But in the meantime, as we are, of course, waiting for there to be something to occur here at the Carlton Reserve that visually we can see, we'll, of course, take your questions here out of the YouTube Live and Facebook Live comment section. Let's start here with YouTube. McGill928, hashtag HeyJB. But why is the FBI just now asking him to help? Why wouldn't they ask what his favorite trails are weeks ago? And again, according to the attorney, Stephen Bertolino, who spoke to or sent a text message to 8 on Your Side investigator Masa Saidi, and I'll read it here. Although Chris and Roberta Laundrie provided this information verbally 3 weeks ago, it is now thought that on-site assistance may be better. So according to Bertolino, the attorney, when they had conversations with the FBI, favorite trails, spots that Brian Laundrie had been to in the past, some of these areas were indicated and given to law enforcement, given to federal agents. And right now, or based on this statement, we don't have anything for the FBI. All we have is the words of Stephen Bertolino here, and now saying that Chris Laundrie is assisting law enforcement today in the search for Brian. Chris was asked to point out any favorite trails or spots that Brian may have used in the preserve here. But I put this out on Twitter last night. For people that have been following me on my WFLAJB Twitter account, I asked this question. I said, why now? What has changed? Are we just getting now to a point in the search efforts where they're considering all of their additional options here as far as where they can bring in additional resources, such as Brian Laundrie's father, to assist in the search efforts? Or has there been a development that has led them to now bring in Brian Laundrie's father here, Chris Laundrie, to assist in search efforts? Now, let's not forget, yesterday was a very interesting day in the search for Brian Laundrie here at the Carlton Reserve. Again, show you just some video from yesterday. A lot more activity yesterday than what we've seen really over the past week to 10 days. A lot more vehicles that we could see from Eagle 8 HD. The K9 was there. The drone was there. It was a pretty large search effort comparatively to what we've had over the last 10 days. So was there something new, a development? CNN reporting last night about a campsite. We, of course, very, very cognizant of that. But it has something really changed here where they want Brian Laundrie here as part, or Brian Laundrie's father, part of the search for Brian Laundrie himself. Interesting question here, but I want to know what has changed. Why now? Why wasn't Chris Laundrie, Brian Laundrie's father, brought in 2 weeks ago? Why are we waiting till October 7th? And that's something that really only the FBI knows, or unless maybe Bertolino is going to release an additional statement here and clear up, in his estimation, why this is happening now and not weeks ago. But I've also put out on my Twitter as well and on Instagram as well, where was Chris and Roberta Laundrie's plea to the public to help find their son Brian? Why weren't they out there asking for the public's help, or why weren't they on their front lawn pleading with the public to call 1-800 call FBI? Where was the effort to find Brian then? Why now is Chris Laundrie himself involved here, and our commenters noting that it's because the FBI asked? But where was the plea to the public to help find Brian weeks ago? I don't know the answer to that question. And I think we've talked about this here on stream quite a bit. If it was your child, I can speak to myself. If it was my child, I want to lace up my boots, and I know it's treacherous. I know there's snakes. I know there's gators. I know that it's rough terrain. And I know that weeks ago it was extremely swampy here with all the precipitation that we had. But if it's my kid, you can't stop me from trying to help out. I wouldn't be able to sit in my house and just stare at my four walls or go back in the backyard and do gardening while my son is out there and I don't know where he is, if that's me. I'm just speaking for me. Let's take some other comments here. Letitia Rosado, #AJB. I have never heard of a family member joining the search for a person of interest in a homicide, especially not knowing if this man had anything to do with helping him get away to begin with. It's an interesting comment here. The dynamics here are very bizarre. And I think that that's part of the reason why we've had so many people gravitate towards this story, is because all of this just feels so strange, does it not? Letitia, thanks for your comment here. David Wright, that name, of course, rings a bell because I'm a baseball fan, former New York Met, but it doesn't appear that this is the former New York Met. David Wright here, #AJB. I think that they've narrowed down the search area and are bringing the dad in to assist in bringing Brian into custody safely. We don't know if the search area has narrowed. We don't know if there's been a new wrinkle or development that leads them to be looking in this particular spot. But we're live here with you from Eagle 8 HD, and we're going to stay here with you live for as long as we have fuel to continue to scan here the Carlton Reserve and look for signs of Brian Laundrie's father, Chris Laundrie, actively involved there in the search efforts at the Carlton Reserve. Paul again, it speaks to how vast this area is. I mean, he's zooming in and out, looking for any signs of law enforcement. E McCoy 15 on Twitter. #AJB, they are in a small vehicle over by a bridge near like a sign with a little roof on it. And we've had online sleuths that have been providing us with some great intel from social media. And there's, of course, so many people on the ground here monitoring the every step of law enforcement and the every step of an individual like Chris Laundrie here. And this could be now the beginning here of the search. Again, There could have been a time set. Let's all meet at the Carlton Reserve here at this time. We'll have our meeting here at this time, and then we'll actually start walking or driving around the grounds here at this time, maybe noon. It's 11:55 Eastern right now. Could noon be the start time of the search efforts? It's if there is the FBI is by the book, and of course they have a plan in place for each and every day, and there's of course a strategy that is executed, and we might see that strategy kind of play out in real time here from Eagle 8 HD. Ashley Renee, #AJB. The FBI wouldn't ask his father to be there unless they know something, right? I don't think they'd let him interfere with their investigation otherwise. Ashley, I don't know if you would say it's necessarily interfering, but trying to tap into the knowledge of Brian Laundrie's father, Chris Laundrie, and use that to their advantage as far as looking in the right spot. So I don't know if necessarily interfering here. Now, listen, I read your social media comments. Reddit, I hear all of what you're saying on Reddit. I pay very close attention to Reddit, to Twitter, to YouTube, to Instagram. And I know that there are people who think that this is just a major misdirection, that this is all intentional, and this is all just to give Brian Laundrie an opportunity to get as far away from Florida as possible. I hear it, but there's no evidence. There's no evidence. That is a theory that makes sense for a Netflix series or a Hulu movie or an Amazon Prime original. It does. It makes sense. That puzzle piece fits in your brain. But there's no evidence right now to suggest that this is a misdirection. And if the FBI is committing this amount of resources here to the Carlton Reserve near Myakkahatchee, then it leads you to believe, we don't know, but it makes you want to believe that they have something substantial, credible, tangible evidence that leads them to be used. I mean, we're almost going on a month here, right? A month or so at the Carlton Reserve as far as the search. We're about to hit the 1 month point. Would it be a month-long search if they didn't have something that really felt authentic and real as to them being here? I think that we have to put our faith in the FBI. And remember, they're the ones at the poker table holding all the cards, and we don't know what those cards are as far as the evidence here in this case. Gabriella Gab with a very good question here, #AJB. Are people watching Laundrie's home? If not, they should. And I can assure you that while the large contingency of media has moved from outside of the home there in Northport, the Laundrie home, and have moved here to Myakkahatchee, to where the Ford Mustang was found abandoned. There's still going to be a considerable amount of people outside of the home. It's not as if everybody picks up their gear, leaves, picks up their lawn chairs and drives to the spot. Though I would imagine that right now outside of the Laundrie home there, and I'd be curious checking with Brian. I'll shoot Brian Enton a text here. Okay, let's just text Brian. Just curious where Brian is. I know that our crews have mobilized, and our crews are on the Myakka side of the Carlton Reserve. But if Brian Enton is still at the Laundrie home, and I could follow, of course, I have him right here on Twitter. Good look there as well. I'm just curious if he is still at the Laundrie home, then no, he is. Brian Enton, of course, is at the Reserve. I see his post here 5 minutes ago. In fact, he did a live stream for his viewers there as well. So he is there on the ground. So I don't know how many people, Gabriella, are at the Laundrie's home, but I can assure you it's not a ghost town. Heather on YouTube, #AJB, do you think that all of these FBI agents and everyone involved would be wasting time searching the same reserve if they didn't have some sort of evidence / clues that he is, in fact, hiding there? Very similar to what I was just talking about. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is notorious for not giving, it's an ironclad ship, no leaks whatsoever. And so we're not going to get any information as to why these developments have occurred, why there was an uptick specifically in activity at Carlton Reserve yesterday, why there was more vehicles there. It was virtually non-existent from Eagle 8 HD as far as the search efforts on Monday, Tuesday. Then Wednesday comes around, and all of a sudden, they focus in on a new area, A drone gets launched in the air, a canine gets brought in, and they're going up and down the power line trail there, the power line road there, and kind of scanning back and forth and really paying attention to that one spot. So what does that mean? We don't necessarily know, but to Heather's comment here, it makes you want to believe that there is something new here that leads them not just to be focusing their attention here on this one spot, but to also now have Brian Laundrie's father, Chris Laundrie, here at Carlton Reserve. Jessica Conway, #AJB. Do you think Brian Laundrie will be found by his father today? I hope. That's all I can say. Everyone's got gut feelings. I read it specifically. I spent all night last night and all morning this morning catching up on some of the Reddit activity. There's some great folks over there on Reddit, on the the subreddit, Gabby Petito subreddit. And so many people just, prayers, today's the day. Prayers that this is it. Prayers that we have momentum. Just holding on to any thread of hope that Brian Laundrie is going to be found alive here locally. Now, the odds, of course, of finding him increase here locally, and the chance of him being elsewhere, like the Appalachian Trail or even internationally, the farther he gets away from Florida, the more unlikely, or the more likely it is that we're just not going to find him anytime soon. Our best bet right now is where most of the resources have been pooled, and visibly the resources are here at the Carlton Reserve. I see our digital content producer, Heather Monahan. So I want to address this too. We're trying to, there's misinformation out there that Brian's new phone was purchased on September 14th. We're not exactly sure where that information is coming from. We've always reported it as September 4th. That's been one of the thumbtacks on the timeline that just has been very odd to us, because we don't know if that's just as simple as there being a typo. A lot of folks just saying September 14th was the date that a new phone was purchased. Well, we've always had it as September 4th, so I just want to kind of clear that up here. But if anybody has information, credible information, factual information as to a phone being purchased on September 14th, please let me know on my WFLAJB Twitter, Instagram. You could also shoot an email over to me as well here, jbuno@wfla.com. Waiting for Paul to chime in here. Not really hearing Paul. Just bringing his audio up here just to make sure we haven't missed him. He's really home. When we don't hear, Paul likes to talk to our audience. Paul likes to engage with our WFLA Now audience. And when he goes quiet for, I think it's been about 15 minutes now, he's really focused and honed in. Let's bring up Paul's picture here. I want to explain what Paul does in Eagle 8 HD. He's not flying it. People are like, oh, he's the pilot. No, he has a pilot, a dedicated pilot that is navigating, and he's always, of course, in constant contact with our pilot for Eagle 8 HD. We have multiple pilots for Eagle 8 HD. But Paul is working a joystick, very similar to like a video game controller, but more of like a panel in front of him, and he's got monitors in front of him. He's got several different cameras on Eagle 8 HD. So he is a master, and I say this, it's a master class in being able to look out of the window to spot something on the ground there, and then be able to look at it on the monitor in front of him and comparatively say that those two areas are the same exact thing. It takes just kind of like a meteorologist in front of a green screen, knowing where to point and having the presence to be there and be very, very coordinated, eye-hand coordination. Paul is among the best I've ever seen at being able to identify a point of reference on the ground and match that up with a point of reference on the monitors in front of him, while meanwhile he's about 1,400 feet up in the air inside of a chopper flying around. He's moving at all times, as we can see here. He's zooming in and out, he's panning, he's tilting as the chopper itself is moving. And so I just like to explain that for our viewers. Paul is extraordinarily incredible at what he does here. So when he goes quiet for this long, it's because he's really honed in here on visually trying to find some indication of where law enforcement might be here at this hour. Let's take a few more questions and comments here. Danny May's Adventures on YouTube. #AJB. Any news on the citation issued on the car. Was the car actually there for 5 days? We have not been able to indicate how long the car was there. We just know the abandoned vehicle report is on WFLA.com that the abandoned vehicle was found at 6968 Reisterstown Road, Northport, Florida, which is pretty much right exactly where Chris Laundrie pulled up to this morning here on the Myakka side of the Carlton Reserve. The ordinance, of course, Ordinance 4256, which is the ordinance for an abandoned vehicle, a vehicle that is left for too long in one spot. The date being September 14th, 2:42 in the afternoon. And the narrative, anytime that police, of course, file a report, there's a description, a narrative where they give details on it, and the entire thing is just ink, as in it's been redacted. It's just a big black square here, or rectangle here. No details there, and perhaps one day we'll find out more about it. But to answer your question, Danny May, no new information, but the information that we do have on the citation here, the abandoned vehicle citation, is on WFLA.com. Let's go to Key High on YouTube, #KJB. What is the relationship between where the Mustang was found and where Chris L's truck was parked? It's the same general area. The Myakka side, so there's a couple different, we've been talking about the two different sides, the Carlton Reserve's main entrance, if you will, and then the Myakkahatchee side, where there is a trail that you're looking at here, the trail that then goes in on the other side of Carlton Reserve here. So it's the same general area here of where the Mustang was found abandoned here. That, again, 6968 Reisterstown Road, Northport, Florida, and it might not be the exact same spot. Latitude, longitude, it might not be the exact same spot, but it's in the same general area as where the Ford Mustang was discovered. Zane Zormonta on YouTube, #JB. Police asked Brian's dad to help earlier, then they canceled. Did they ask the second time? What changed again? So all we've had are indications that Brian Laundrie's parents, Chris and Roberta Laundrie, they have been cooperating at every stage, and that cooperation has been conducted in several different ways, in that they've apparently, of course, been talking to the FBI. Bertolino, of course, the attorney, saying today that gave them trail information, where Brian liked to hike, where he liked to go camping, where he liked to walk here in Myakka, on the Myakka side of Carlton Reserve. They also cooperated in the form of giving DNA evidence. We remember about a few weeks ago, or a couple weeks ago, the FBI pulled up to the home here and collected DNA evidence, or evidence for a DNA sample that they got. They also came a few days later and they collected belongings of Brian Laundrie to assist the canines in picking up the scent. So it's just been a whole lot of cooperation here. But this is now the first time that we have had the cooperation rise to the level of being at the Carlton Reserve physically. Carissa Marie on Twitter, #KJB. Why didn't Roberta go as well? It could have just been a personal decision. This is rough terrain. It's and Roberta, I don't know the experience as far as hiking that Chris and Roberta have. This could have been a situation where Roberta came out here today and Chris didn't, or Chris came out and then Roberta didn't, or they came out together. I think that it just this is a new development. Of course, the media following every move here, the public following every move here, and I think that, listen, being out here in the Florida heat, in the mugginess, in a swampy area where you're walking through mud, where you're actively involved in a FBI-led criminal investigation and search for Brian Laundrie, I'm sure that there was a conversation that was had by Chris and Roberta Laundrie, and they determined, for the reasons that only they know, that Chris was the one to go and Roberta was going to stay, and that that maybe Roberta thought it was best, given all the activity at the home, that maybe it was best that she stay at home and not leave here for the Carlton Reserve. Carissa Marie, thank you for your comment. Again, Paul Lameson's mic is open. We might just check in here with Paul in a moment and just make sure that that our comms are still open. Thomas Camargo. on YouTube. Hashtag HeyJB, any developments on the Appalachian Trail? None. Well, the developments in that there, of course, the sightings, and we've told you about the various sightings there, and in the Carolinas and the Appalachian Trail and the 99.99% sighting there. But as far as developments, as far as the FBI or law enforcement searching the Appalachian Trail, zero. That would have been a major development, because it would have been the first time that law enforcement here connected to Brian Laundrie's disappearance acknowledged that the search has moved beyond the state of Florida. Let's check in with Paul. Let's see if we can check in with Eagle 8 HD's Paul Lamison and just make sure that everything's okay. Hey there, Paul, just checking in, and I see you scanning here, looking, and not a whole lot right now.
Hey, JB, yeah, we're here. We're back. We're kind of just trying to retrace the steps. We know where they started. We have the truck, the trailer, and they were on a little ATV, kind of gator-type car, and we're trying to just find that out here in the wilderness. We know they came across this bridge right here to get into the reserve. Once they got in, we don't know where they went off to. Our guess, we went both directions, and then once you're on this path, there are little roads you can drive into the main part, but once you do that, you're nearly hidden by everything out here. I'll show you one of the areas we're talking about. So if they came in here, you can ride it back through this stuff, and we see roads and little paths, but then they go into these trees. And as of yet, we haven't been able to find anybody out here, and we've been looking for the last half hour, and we just haven't seen any activity. And so that's where we are now, JB. We're in the area where they're apparently searching. We just have not seen the search from the air. But again, this part of the reserve, you get a lot of trees and a lot of tree-lined areas. So say they're on a path, they would ride the path through here, but then up here you go into this heavily wooded area where you can still make it through. It's just tough to see from up in the air, so we have not seen them yet out searching. We know they're here. The truck is still up there. The trailer that held the ATV is still up there. We just haven't found the ATV and the people on it doing the search, and that's what we continue to look for, JB. But again, it's a tough area to find anything, let alone two people out walking around or riding on a small ATV. So we're going to keep looking for another like 10-15 minutes, and we have to go get fuel in Venice, but we'll let you know before we leave. But again, JB, we haven't seen anything up here. Back to you.
Paul, so you would have seen vehicles by now. We've been over this area enough. I think it's safe to say that we would have seen vehicles on the ground here, because there's only so many places the vehicles can actually begin and then head out here into the reserve. So I see two scenarios here. Scenario A is they just haven't begun searching yet, and they're still just having a meeting or a strategy-based sort of discussion. Or scenario B, they're on foot. They're all fanning out here on foot as far as the search efforts here today, and it's just nearly impossible to see them because of how wooded and dense the area is. Do you kind of agree with those two scenarios being kind of where we are now here at this hour?
Well, the thing I think where we are today is there's not a large search. We haven't seen any law enforcement vehicles. The only two vehicles we have seen, we saw Chris Landry's maroon pickup truck, and we saw a white pickup truck with a trailer that held a green four-wheeler, basically like a little ATV. That was seen going off across into the search area. That's what we're looking for. We're not looking for a large search contingency. We're not looking for a bunch of law enforcement. We're looking for two people on a small ATV making their way through this wooded area. And that's, JB, what we haven't been able to find. Because again, say they came out on a road like this, which is fairly easy on one of those small ATVs, they could very easily drive it into this wooded area and be anywhere in this area that we cannot see from up here. So we're not looking for a big search. We're looking for two people on a ATV type vehicle. That's what we're looking for. Those are the only two vehicles we've seen out here today. We haven't seen any law enforcement vehicles. We haven't seen that van we saw yesterday flying the drone. We saw two vehicles parked in a parking lot, a pickup truck and a second pickup truck with the trailer. Two people were seen going into the park, and we haven't seen them since. And that's really what we're looking for. We've gone over the main roads and we haven't seen any vehicles. We've gone through most of the side roads and haven't seen any vehicles. So we're looking for basically just a small ATV that can get almost anywhere in this wooded area. Like, I'll just give you an example, JB. Say you're driving down this road, you could very easily take a four-wheel vehicle into this part of the woods, drive down this, and when you get back in here, just go off-roading a little bit and you're back in a wooded area that we couldn't see. So that's where we are now. We've been flying this area. Mickey, the pilot, and myself, we're looking, and as we go, we've been flying a grid pattern, how you would on a regular search, and we've been looking. And normally we can find stuff when there's not anything out here. It's or just two people. We haven't seen them yet, so that's what we're looking for, JB. It's not a large search. It's not like yesterday. This is a small two people search on a small little green ATV gator type vehicle out here, and so we haven't seen anything, JB.
If only it were bright pink, Paul, right? It would be just way more easy to spot. Paisley Purple,
but camouflage actually works.
Paisley Purple here on Twitter, #KJB. How long can the Chopper Eagle 8HD remain in the air before having to refuel? #Brian Laundrie. So, Paul, I'll let you continue scanning here for any signs of activity, but really quickly, folks here online asking, how long do you have here before you have to go to Venice to refuel?
Probably about 5-10 more minutes. We have a total of usually about an hour 40 minutes in the air, hour 45, depending how much fuel we can put on. And fuel is based on weight, and then it all depends on how we fly. If we're flying fast, we burn more. If we're not going as fast, we don't burn as much. But we had to come down here from Tampa, so that burned quite a bit and gave us probably about 45 minutes of search time down here over the area. But again, we've been flying this pattern, and we have not seen anything other than the two vehicles parked in the parking lot. Now, one thing they could do as well is they can park the ATV under a tree and walk even further in. And so that's kind of where we are now, what we're looking for. And I mean, we see lots of stuff down here. Like, we've seen just different things on the side of the road, like trash cans, pipes, like this thing. But we haven't seen the ATV out here yet. But we'll keep looking till we have to go. But I'll throw it back to you, JB.
Thanks, Paul. As always, mic's going to be left open here if you find something that you want to point out. Appreciate it, Paul. Back here with you live, everybody, on WFLA Now. Yeah, you know, I have up here the, let's see, general discussion, 8 a.m. Eastern, October 7th, 2021 here. To folks on Reddit, I'd like to feature some of your comments here as well, so you can use #KJB here as well. We are trying to engage with as many platforms here as possible as far as social media. And again, a big shout out to the folks on Reddit who have been following this and every little itsy-bitsy development as they've been happening here over the last month. So really appreciate all the folks there on that platform here as well. Let's get to some of the other comments that are coming in. Let's see.
Yeah, I guess.
Let's go to Brittany on Twitter, #KJB. Any chance the parents haven't made a public plea for help in finding Brian because the Carlton Reserve is closed off to the public since they allegedly, genuinely believe that he is there? Any chance that the parents haven't made a public plea for help in finding Brian because the Carlton Reserve is closed off to the public since they allegedly and genuinely believe that he is there? I suppose that is true. I think that there's just been a lot of commenters online saying that that just being able to just stay in your home and not do anything and just communicate sparsely through your attorney just doesn't add up to normal behavior for parents who are genuinely in fear for their son's safety. That's the commentary online, and I think that a lot of it is very much in agreement that that there hasn't been. We have this incredible showing of strength and grace from Gabby Petito's family, the Nicole Schmidt, Joe Petito, Tara Petito, and Jim Schmidt. They've just made multiple appearances, whether it be in press conferences or recently on Dr. Phil, and speaking and asking for help, asking for any help possible. Why aren't we seeing that from the other family here? And to the commenter's point here, it could be because the reserve here isn't necessarily a place that the public can just go wandering for one person, but it has struck a lot of folks as odd that there hasn't been any plea or any effort whatsoever by Chris and Roberta Laundrie to find their son. I think that's been stated many times over and over again. Oh, Paul found something here.
Okay, JB, we found it.
10-4, Paul. You're live.
Hey, this is it. This is what they were riding in. We found this. Now they're on foot, so it was tough enough to find this. We just happened to hit it on a certain area, but this is the vehicle they rode in. They came back in this, and so they're going to be somewhere off on foot in this area. So I'm going to get a little bit of video of this, and we're going to look in this area before we have to leave. But this is what they came out onto, and now they came into this area, and now they're on foot. So they're somewhere back here on foot. So they came back into this area of trees, they parked, and then they went on foot, and where they went is anybody's guess there, but they're back somewhere in this area on foot, and we'll keep looking here until we have to leave, and then once we refuel we can come back and maybe see if we can track them down. But somewhere back in here, and they've had probably an hour head start. So we'll look back in that area and see, but I want to show you, this is what they were searching on. We thought they might have gotten further than they really did, but this vehicle is the only search vehicle that we've seen out in the reserve today. We haven't seen any law enforcement vehicles. We haven't seen anything other than this, and we don't even know who's driving it. It's not labeled as a law enforcement vehicle. So again, that's the vehicle they drove off into the woods in. They got off there, and they're now searching by foot, but they're not with a large contingency. They're just with two people. Two people got off the truck. Chris Laundrie was one of them, Chris Laundrie was one of them, and a different person, and we don't know who that person is, if he's law enforcement, who he is. But again, this is the area they parked, and so they went one way or the other. This way is wet. And this way, I mean, you can see different paths can go anywhere from here. So we'll keep looking in this specific area. When we'll go get fuel, and then when we come back, we'll focus on this area because they're somewhere out in here on foot. It's just a matter of where, and you can see in the trees there's water. So they could be anywhere out in this area, and we'll keep looking and let you know. But we did find the vehicle, so now we're just looking for the people. But again, I'll give you one more shot of the vehicle. but that's the extent of the search, JB, right there. So there's 2 people now out in the woods walking, and we'll try to see where they went. But again, they can be anywhere under all of these trees, which is more than likely where they are. We'll just have to see if they pop out at any minute, because again,
Paul, maybe I can help you out just here a little bit. We're going to go split screen here for our audience, and it's not like it's going to be a very bright color here, Paul, but Chris Laundrie here, seen with a green, dark green cap, kind of a light baby blue, grayish kind of shirt. Very neutral colors here, nothing too bright or vibrant that you'd be able to see there, but for what it's worth, wearing a green hat, and that's of course not the color that you would want to be able to spot somebody from the sky, but there's a pretty basic description. And Paul, I don't know if you had a chance to see the video from our cameras before you left for to launch from Eagle, but it's not necessarily colors that are going to be easily spotted by Eagle 8 HD in the air.
Yeah, but if we see any kind of movement, that's what we key in on. And now that we have a specific area, we can kind of go out, and it's just a matter of them coming out from under these trees. Because you see, if they're out in the open, we would definitely spot them. But we believe they're now hiking underneath the heavily wooded area, which is probably where they're searching now. But we'll keep looking, and we'll let you know if we see anything.
Paul, I know that fuel is a resource that is oh so precious here, but we'll let you continue, of course, scanning here and hovering here over this one spot, and we'll keep our eyes peeled. We'll go full screen.
Okay.
All right, folks, so we're not exactly sure how much longer we're going to have Eagle 8 HD here.
So we're going to go over to Venice and get fuel, and we should be back up in the air in about 25 minutes.
10-4, Paul. Paul Lamison, everybody, in Eagle 8 HD. And what we're going to do here in a bit, we're going to take a bit of a break here and step away. And then when Eagle 8 HD is back here over the area, we can, of course, resume our live here. And we'll stay here with you live in certain places. I think we'll be able to stay live on YouTube and on maybe on well, definitely on WFLA.com. WFLA.com is always live. It's always our live player lives there. And as far as then distributing that out to our social media platforms there, I know that we're going to be able to stay live on YouTube and perhaps on Facebook, but we'll see. Now, of course, we have a spot of reference to the Reddit community. I did see that somebody was kind enough to pass along some coordinates very, very much. And this is what I'm talking about. A big shout out to, again, the Reddit community there for you have to understand we're balancing trying to follow comments on so many different platforms at once, and thousands of comments are coming in every hour across all of our platforms at once. It can be just like this is a needle in a haystack kind of search for Chris Laundrie and law enforcement here on that ATV. It's also a needle in a haystack to find one really meaningful comment here across all of our platforms. But that's what we try to do. But to the Reddit community, I see you, appreciate you, and let's take some more questions and comments from our queue here. In the meantime, Coffee Addict on Twitter. I forgot my coffee this morning. I wish that I had my coffee this morning. Hashtag Brian Laundrie. How many law enforcement / unmarked vehicles are at the park today? As many as yesterday? No. Or is it just a couple that are accompanying CL, Chris Laundrie? Hashtag AJB. And based on, again, Paul's reporting here from Eagle 8 HD, it is not as noticeable here from the air here today as far as the amount of vehicles that are there at the Carlton Reserve there. We had 15 vehicles yesterday, a drone, including a canine there as well, and this looks to be a much more concise, smaller effort here, but it does involve, for the very first time here, Chris Laundrie, the father of Brian Laundrie. Lisa Harmon on Twitter, and we're going to follow Eagle 8 HD back to Venice, our flight radar community there. I know that there's a great flight tracking community there. Hashtag one of us on Reddit. They'll be following Eagle as it makes its trip back to Venice, comes down on the ground, refuels, relaunches, gets back there over those same coordinates there. Lisa Harmon, hashtag HeyJB on Twitter. Maybe this has been asked and I missed it. Is it common that members of the media are in direct communication via personal text with an attorney involved in a criminal case of this magnitude, or really any magnitude? And I'll say this. I've noted here on stream that Stephen Bertolino's texting patterns have been a bit strange. Sometimes he'll release one statement to one member of the media and then something completely different. I almost picture him sitting in his office on Long Island in New York and just like texting back every reporter's inquiry individually, and just like, which sounds very strange, because you would think that somebody would just copy and paste the same exact message to everybody and then just, okay, copy, paste, and then paste, send, paste, send, paste, send, paste, send. And it has actually become more of that in the last several days, but about a week ago, it was individual and varied responses here. But I will tell you this, Lisa, it's become way more. I have attorneys in my phone that are experts and that do handle large cases here in the Tampa Bay area that I can text at any moment to get some insight or ask questions about a particular case. It's actually really more common now in 2021 to be in contact with an attorney in that way versus maybe 10 years ago when everything was kind of put out via statements or you would just make a phone call. But texting has really changed the way that attorneys communicate with the media. Absolutely. Shaylin Rose Rumsey, hashtag HJB, hypothetically speaking, maybe Cassie's plea for Brian and their parents worked. Is this a result of, I've seen two questions asked in this way. Is this a result of Cassie Laundrie's publicity of late? Her being vocal and speaking to the media and speaking to Good Morning America and speaking to the demonstrators outside of her home? Or could this be related to Dr. Phil's two-part interview with the Schmidt and Petito families? Very, very interesting here that we've had more appearances here from key members of these families, very visible appearances here from these families, and now we have some activity here from Chris Laundrie participating in the search. Coincidence? Maybe. But it's just hard to say for sure. I'd be very curious to know, Shaylin, here to kind of hop off of this. Has there been communication in the last several days between Cassie Laundrie and her parents? There was clearly a divide. She said that she hasn't heard from her parents in some time. In the meantime, while Eagle 8 HD here has frozen its shot here as it prepares to land, we'll show you the video from this morning. This is again from this morning. Chris Laundrie leaving his home with that plastic bag here, leaving in the red Dodge Ram here and the maroon Dodge Ram, if you will. Oh, that's Eagle's tone going up here to let us know that the shot is down. And leaving here and then heading over to the Myakka side of Carlton Reserve. But yeah, has there been any communication? Thanksgiving's coming up. I know I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but what is Thanksgiving going to look like for the Laundrie family this year? Does Cassie does Cassie come over for Thanksgiving? How massive is the fracture for this family? What is, family is all about, coming together and being unified, and especially on holidays, right? Holidays around the corner. We're closing in on Halloween here, then Thanksgiving, and then of course, we have holidays in December. I will just say this. Of course, we're curious. We're reporters. We're journalists here, and I'm curious as to what that relationship is like right now. It appears to be fractured, unless things have changed over the last 48 hours or so. M. Laurel Lewis on Twitter, hashtag HJB, hashtag Florida, hashtag FL and Carlton Reserve. Views from above the Carlton Reserve show a lot of wet, circular areas. I'm a Washington State person. Can anyone explain these geological features to me? Thank you. That's very interesting because I live here in this area, and that doesn't seem all that strange to me, but it might seem strange to you. The Pacific Northwest is completely different as far as topography and way more mountainous. That's the thing that people don't really know about Florida until they visit Florida. Florida is flat, and it's in areas that are like the Everglades, very swampy, murky, and water will build and it will saturate on the ground. We get so much rain here in Florida that water will pool and build, and the ground here is very different in Florida than it would be in, let's say, where you are, M. Laurel Lewis in Washington, or where I grew up in New York. Where I grew up in New York, every house had a basement. And then everyone will know where I'm going with this eventually here as far as the laundry backyard. Every home I had a basement. In fact, I spent a lot of my time in the basement. Hey, you want to come sit down? Sure. Josh Benson here, everybody. Going to sit down here with us in just a moment. In fact, let's I'll have to hit a few buttons here, everybody. But let me bring up Josh's mic so at least he can say hello.
Hey, guys.
And then it'll take me a moment here just to get Josh's shot kind of tuned in here. Yes, I do it all. It's one-man band streaming. And it'll take you just a few seconds here to get Josh kind of involved in the conversation here. Always appreciate help as far as folks coming over here. I don't like to stream by myself. Having help is teamwork makes the stream work. Okay. Let's get Josh Benson's shot in here. And 3, 2, 1, live. Okay. And now we're here live with Josh Benson here,
guys.
everybody. I was just talking about how I grew up in New York.
Yep.
Basements were everywhere. I used to spend a lot of my time in the basement. It just, that's where I would hang out.
Basements are cool.
Basements are great.
Yeah. Minnesota, so we had basements.
You had basements in Minnesota.
Yeah.
We have a commenter joining us here from Washington State. So basements are extremely uncommon just due to the ground here in Florida. Yep. Not very, very common. So then this, of course, goes into just we talked about this briefly yesterday, the video that has been circulating online of people theorizing that the garden bed there in the backyard, that they saw movement there, and now there's this wild, crazy, baseless conspiracy theory out there that Brian Laundrie never left home. He's just in the backyard in a bunker. And that's just... it's not.
So many people talked about it yesterday, and I'm surprised we're talking about that today, to be honest, because I know it was kind of a creepy look at the corner of the garden bed there, but yeah, I don't see how that could even be plausible at this point. But yeah, a lot of people talked about that yesterday, and a lot of good points being made today. Obviously, the news, this is something big in the case we haven't seen. We've seen the dad now leave out to go to the reserve to start searching for his son. That's apparently what we've been told. So what's the reaction to that? Because that's obviously the huge development today.
I'm sorry, reading some comments. The reaction to what specifically now?
Just in terms of what we're seeing here with the dad now out in the reserve.
I think that there are people questioning why. I'm questioning why now.
Right.
Why now all of a sudden? And also, too, whether or not the FBI asked him to be there. Now, we have the statement from Stephen Bertolino.
Right.
But did the FBI say, we need your help? Because that's not something that you can picture the FBI saying, like, Chris, we've been looking here and we can't find Brian, and can you help us? Like, that doesn't sound like something that
they
the
don't
FBI...
need the help. The FBI knows what they're doing in this case. And I asked the attorney that earlier today. I said, can you comment on why he's there? And he says, to assist in any way he can. Then he sent out the statement saying he's assisting law enforcement in the search. He was asked to point out favorite trails and so on. That you've read that statement. But it is interesting because if this was the case, and this was 3 weeks now, as you mentioned, JB, why not get out there earlier? And the fact that the park is closed is not a very good excuse. I mean, if you're a family member and you're searching for a family member, I think you have clearance or should have clearance from law enforcement to go help out.
I agree.
Or a statement to say, hey, we tried, we went down there, there's video of us going down to the park, we were turned away because the park was closed. I would have liked to see that answer instead.
Yep, me too.
And video of them showing, hey, we went down there to try to get into the park, and they said, go home.
Again, another one here from Tracy on Twitter, #HJB. Any idea how normal it is for the FBI to ask a parent to join a search weeks after he's been quote unquote missing. Why wouldn't they have asked his parents weeks ago where he normally hikes? And as we understand it, again, the statement from Bertolino that it was communicated to the FBI, Brian Laundrie's favorite trails and his favorite spots there at the Carlton Reserve, but now we're hearing that having him actually point them out there is way more beneficial. Having him on the ground there is way more helpful to the search efforts, at least according to Stephen Bertolino. But again, why wasn't this done a couple of weeks ago?
And did we not hear from him saying that they did point this out weeks ago? Some of the favorite trails and the favorite hikes. I believe they said that verbally to them. They just didn't go out and show them.
Here's another thing, and I think we all want Brian Laundrie to be found alive. We want him to be found alive, and the best chance of finding him alive right now, if you were looking at a pie chart, okay, and the odds are highest that we find him alive here at the Carlton Reserve, because that's just where the most active search is currently ongoing. But as we kind of go on here, let's just state the obvious. It has to be stated as far as the obvious. Every day that passes here, the chances of him being found alive here at the Carlton Reserve drop, and it might significantly. Yeah. And it might be a little, but and the slope, I'm imagining almost like a slope, like the odds of finding Brian Laundrie alive, and I would imagine that it's sloping downward here with each and every passing day, and that means that time is of the essence. And if time is of the essence, then why didn't Chris Laundrie get brought in here to point out these trails and point out these potential hotspots weeks ago?
All good questions. And, the family of Gabby Petito's, both families were on Dr. Phil yesterday and made some pleas and actually had a lot to say to Dr. Phil. A lot of people are trying to make that connection that the family now is trying to, the Laundrie family is trying to respond to the action that came out yesterday of, saying, turn yourself in, he's a coward, this and that. So, I don't know if you can make that connection, but it is interesting timing, to say the least, on why we're starting to all of a sudden see activity. But also the FBI has had a few quiet days in the reserve. Yesterday we did see the increase in agencies. Sarasota Sheriff came in, other agencies came in. There was a bigger response. So all of the timing is interesting if you look at it.
It is. Looking here at some more questions and comments that are coming in here. There are a lot of comments here that we can't animate on screen because they're just, it's trolling comments here, and we're just not. I don't care which hashtag you use. We're not going to animate a comment here.
Where did you leave with Paul? I didn't see it before when you guys were live.
So Paul tracked down the ATV. It was empty. The seats on the ATV were empty. We
that was a Gator, right? Like a John Deere Gator.
Yeah. Yes, it was, and and it was very evident that they had gone from that point on foot.
Yeah.
So Eagle 8 HD, everybody, is refueling right now in Venice, Florida. I'm sure that our wonderful flight aware and flight radar community there on Reddit they probably know more about where Eagle 8 HD is right now than I do.
Has Paul told you flight time on that helicopter? I know that's one that we're using.
Well, he says he'll be back here in flight time.
Like how long can he fly before he has to refuel?
It's about an hour. It's about an hour.
That's a good question for people to know, because you can't just stay out there all day. He's got to go back and forth.
And we're going to try to do a 2-for-1 here. We're going to try to get 2 flights into one stream here. Now that Josh is here and I have somebody to bounce off of here, it's way easier here for me to fill time to get Paul back in the air for a second flight. And now that we're launching from Venice and refueling in Venice,
good.
That shortens the time.
Big time.
Because launching from Tampa, that's, of course, where the nest is. Launching from Tampa and coming all the way down to the Carlton Reserve, that's a 20-minute journey. Right. So that cuts into our time, but 45 minutes max really is what we can do as far as over the reserve itself.
Yep.
Let's Brooke Daniel Ford. I'll let you kind of answer this one, Josh, because I want to go through some more of the comments here across all of our platforms, including Reddit, and try to get some of the ones involved there as well. But Brooke Daniel Ford asking #AJB, why wouldn't an experienced outdoorsman stay local if he wasn't receiving local support from parents?
Yeah, this is a good question. Thanks, Brooke, for the question. And I'm going to answer it just kind of what I was thinking about yesterday. I was actually visualizing why or how much work it would take for Brian to leave and to get out to the Appalachian Trail, or to just spend the days that he had to try to leave to go from state to state. Now, that's a lot of work, and that's a lot of resources, and that's a lot of travel. It's a lot of mental anguish just trying to know that you're on the run and get as far away from possible as you can. But in a lot of cases that I have seen and covered, there are instances where, you know, a person of interest in this case doesn't go very far. It's like almost hiding in plain sight. This happens far often than you would think. And they go to places where, you know, they're familiar with. Now, we know he's familiar with the Carlton Reserve. According to the parents, that's where he said he was going to meditate and to just get away, whatever. Then that's where the car comes into the question. But if he's been out there on a number of occasions, which we're told he has, that's a place that he knows is very large and he knows it very well. So perhaps maybe that was where he was headed to think about his next move. And maybe he was prepared to stay out there for a few days just to try to figure out, all right, am I staying here or am I going? So when you say, why would an experienced outdoorsman stay local? I think it all comes down to the fact that he's familiar and he knows the area. He knows that it's large. He knows he can buy some time and think about what his next move would be. And if he's not receiving local support from parents, maybe he knew that. Maybe he knew they couldn't speak. The attorney's saying to the parents, don't talk. This is your right to remain silent, so do that. And so I think if Brian was aware of that fact, you know, any of us would want to protect our parents in that regard and not bring them into something that could be a bad situation. So that's why I think, personally, I think that's why, if he's experienced as we hear he is, and, you know, he's not some kind of survivalist from what people are talking about in terms of how they know him and what extent of talent he has in the outdoors. But if he's comfortable camping and doing that sort of thing, local's just an easier bet to start because he knows the area well and it's comfortable for him. That's what I would say.
Take this one more here, Josh, while I load in some stuff here from Reddit.
Sure. Yep.
Tammy Armand, #AJB, have you ever known the FBI to be wrong?
Thanks, Tammy. Yeah, they're not 100%. I don't think any agency is 100%, but they're good. I mean, they have the resources. They have the ability to make arrests. They have ability to run search warrants. They have pretty much every ability in law you can have in the country. So, yeah, I think just like in TV news, sometimes we get bad tips. We get bad information, and that's why it's so vital that we have to study where that information came from and make sure it's credible and make sure that we're dealing with a legit source before we run with something. Just like the FBI, I'm sure they get these thousands of tips to say, hey, there's Brian Laundrie here in Montana. Here he is in Tennessee. Here he is in New York. Here he is in Canada. You know, that's a lot of stuff, and all of a sudden, just 4 places. Think of the resources that would go into having to like track that lead down to confirm it to be correct or to be unfounded. So I think, yeah, for sure, the FBI has been wrong in the past, and nobody's perfect. And I think even though they're super talented and they know what they're doing, I think they're very careful though not to go down the wrong path, because that eats resources. And really, this is a race against time to find this guy.
We just had a comment here, and again, I'm trying to get more comments from Reddit involved here. And Munch Mac. I can't say this name, but it was JB. Let me know if you need a gas card for the chopper. I got you. And so, hey,
regular
Reddit,
unleaded.
Reddit, yeah, right, regular unleaded.
About $2.99.
Reddit is ready to step in here apparently and assist with refueling Eagle 8 HD. But no, we got Eagle 8 HD refueling right now here, and I do want to spotlight some more questions and comments from Reddit, including from this one. This is the thread here is the general discussion. 8 a.m. Eastern, October 7th, 2021 discussion in the Gabby Petito subreddit. Captain Dust 1000 on Reddit, hashtag, or it wasn't even just that, it was just a, hey JB, do you have any information that would indicate mental health issues with Brian Laundrie prior to leaving on his road trip with Gabby Petito? And I don't, there's nothing on the record as far as mental health issues. There's nothing even off the record that we have heard as far as mental health issues. But we have talked at great length here about what Brian Laundrie's mental state is right now, if he is aware of the amount of coverage right now that is being poured into and the amount of FBI resources that are being poured into his disappearance and his whereabouts. And that, of course, would be, you talked about this yesterday on stream, Josh, too, how taxing and how the weight would be so heavy on that person's mind, and getting, being found would almost then be a relief in a way, because just the mental weight of carrying all of that knowledge, knowing that the entire world is looking for you, it's I used this word last night, I'll use it again. It's gargantuan as far as the amount of weight that would be on that person's mind. To answer Captain Dust 1000's question here, we don't know of any mental health issues, but mental health is very much part of the conversation with where we are now in this FBI-led criminal investigation.
You know, I had an interesting message on Twitter from somebody who watched the dad walk out and get in his truck. And, you know, this person, you know, everybody is looking at these parents as kind of public enemy number one right now. But she said something interesting. She said, you know, I look at this dad and going to search for his son and the feeling he must have knowing that he could be dead or alive and he's going to try to find him right now. Strip away everything about the case, and I'm not defending this family whatsoever. I'm just looking at this from a human interest standpoint. The challenge of this woman says for a dad to have to get in his truck and say, I'm going to go try to find my son today. That's pretty heavy stuff. You know, whether you like the Laundries or not, whether you think they're guilty or not, like here's the video I'm talking about. And I found that just to be kind of fascinating because it is true. I mean, any dad, no matter what you think of a situation, you love your kids for the most part. Most of us dads do. And to have to go into that situation, whether that person's guilty or not, that would be tough. So I found that interesting, you know, since there's so much stuff about the Laundrie parents and just, you know, they can't stand seeing them or not helping. And I get that. I get the frustration there. But just wanted to bring that point up because I thought it was really interesting. It was kind of a 180 from what a lot of people are talking about today.
I have another comment here that I'm loading in here from Reddit, and I'll get that one coming up here in just a second, but let's take this one. We'll go back to Facebook here for just a second to get to this one here from Debbie Littlefield. There's so many questions and comments right now, by the way, pertaining to could this be possible, and could that be possible, and is this scenario plausible, and is that scenario plausible, and we'll do our very best here to, again, stay rooted in fact and try to break down fact versus fiction here, but there's just so many people asking some wild questions here, and we'll do our very best here to throw them on screen and be contextually accurate here with what is and is not possible. Debbie Littlefield, but before we do that, #KJB, why are they wasting our tax dollars? They ain't found him there yet. I don't think he's in the country. And Josh, I've thought about this.
Yep, I have too.
As far as when it's all said and done, and they total the bill.
Right.
For Northport Police, Sarasota County Sheriff's Office, Bradenton Police was out there yesterday, the FBI, and we might never know the dollars and cents of the FBI's investigation as far as how much money was committed here. But I've been wondering just how large the bill is. Millions. I think we're in the millions range. For sure. It just makes you wonder.
And it's not like they're going to just say, okay, here's your bill, Laundrie family, you got to pay it. That's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
And that's taxpayer. You're right, taxpayer dollars. And you and I and JB are paying for it, whether we like it or not. And I, you know, maybe in a court case down the line, if something is ever found out or some blame is ever placed and there's a conviction of any kind of sort, maybe there's some type of restitution that's applied, but it's not going to be to the tune of X million dollars. I think, you know, this is a manhunt, and they're going to throw every resource at it to try to find this person. We have Gabby Petito who was killed, and we need to figure out who did it and how it happened.
Debbie, thanks a lot for your comment. I promise we'd jump back over to Reddit, and then we're going to come back to some more of the social media platforms here. Mimoxo. Oh my goodness. Reddit, your names.
They're clever over there on Reddit. The Redditors.
Moxo. I'm going to go with Mamaxo on Reddit, hashtag, or not hashtag, again, just hey JB, do you think that they are using Chris Laundrie for cues to see if he is lying through verbal/nonverbal indicators here? We can't answer this question, and this gets now into all the questions of, is this plausible, is that plausible? But this, I bring up this one here from Reddit, from Mamaxo. I could probably say it a million different ways. Mamaxo?
Mamaxo.
I'm going to go with Mamaxo. This is an interesting. Can you imagine being the federal agent who's with Chris Laundrie right now? And I would imagine that federal agent right now that is with Chris Laundrie here is trying to pick up on body language and on tone of voice and trying to pick up on just, this is the first time that he's been out there at the reserve. So I'm sure that there's it's got to be interesting here as far as that dynamic on the ground between that FBI agent or agents, depending on just how many are there with Chris Laundrie and with Chris Laundrie himself.
Yeah, and I appreciate that question because I think a lot of the times we look so in depth on analyzing every little element of a case only to find out later, no, we were just having a chat, or no, he was just pointing out the trails, like nothing was happening. But it is a good point because if you're somebody talented with the FBI and you have so little clues in a case, that could be helpful to kind of bring him out there and watch what he knows and analyze his reactions and try to get some information that could help them.
Not to mention that cross-referencing is going to be key because if Chris Laundrie did give information weeks ago about the trails and some of the camping spots that were used by Brian Laundrie, and then he's there today, and what he says today, and again, we're going deep down hypotheticals here, so everyone's got to bear with me here. We're kind of going down the rabbit hole here. But if what he says today is contradictory to something that he said a couple of weeks ago, I would imagine that would be a red flag for the FBI to say, wait a minute, you told us to look here a couple of weeks ago. Why all of a sudden are we looking here? Or if they look at a new spot, they would say, Chris, this is vital information. Why didn't you come forward with this weeks ago when we interview you in your home? Why are we just finding out? So cross-referencing the statements now between Chris Laundrie being there today at the Carlton Reserve and what he indicated weeks ago when he communicated initially with the FBI, that is also another very, very important component here to the dynamic between the FBI and Chris Laundrie here at the Reserve.
And look, do we know that an FBI agent is with him right now?
We know that he is there and he's being
with an individual.
With an individual.
But the person who brought in the vehicle, as far as I know, was with the Division of Forestry. So that vehicle was shown to pull up with the gator, and could that person be with him? I mean, maybe he's not with FBI whatsoever. I mean, you would assume he's with FBI because they want to know everything that's going on.
To just give him like a liaison, just a driver, and not have...
I would think that FBI would be there. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I totally understand. No, you're right. Because
we don't necessarily know who's with him.
I'm very curious because now Eagle 8 HD is heading back there with a full tank of fuel.
Gas.
Yep, and ready to go. And I just want to say that I'm looking forward to Eagle now having a full tank of gas, having coordinates here, and I want to see Chris Laundrie here, whether it's with the liaison or with the FBI. I want to see him on the ground. I want to know what that looks like.
Well, and it's pretty thick, you said, right? The coverage. So I mean, will we be able to see anybody?
If he stays in the shade, in which, believe me, in Florida, you want to stay in the shade as much as you can with how hot it is, even in October. It's hot. It's hot out there. It's muggy. It's hot. So you want to be in the shade, but you can't be just in the shade for the entirety of today's visit. You're going to have to, of course, be out there, and I'm hoping that we do see it from Eagle 8 HC once we're back airborne here. And I'm looking on our grid, nothing yet.
But I think it's just interesting to see the strategy today to bring him out all of a sudden. The time we talk about why now, it's just so interesting to, what do they have out there? What do they see? What is it just dead ends? And they think, well, if we bring him out here, maybe we can get on a hot new trail. Or do they have something specific they want to show him? Is there a campsite out there? Is there something out there that they've found? Is it something that they need him to kind of, you can't put it in a bag and bring it to the house. We have to go show him that's what I'm thinking maybe is the case. They got to go show him something that could be representative of what Brian would have done, since his dad probably knows him best.
How about this one? We're going to take another one here from Reddit. Reddit also commenting here in real time. And does a chopper have fuel or gas?
Fuel.
Okay, so what did you say? I thought I said fuel.
I said gas, but I just
full
tank of gas is just.
Yeah, it's just interesting because we said it at the same time, and it was like tomato.
I believe it is. It's not. They're not going to put 10W30 in there. They're not going to put what is it? Regular unleaded.
No, it's of course it's fuel for.
It's not diesel. I don't know what it is. Does anybody know?
Jim would know.
Jim, what kind of fuel is in a chopper? Jet fuel.
Aviation jet fuel. Yeah.
See, perfect.
How about Soap Bell on Reddit? hashtag, and I want to say hashtag HJB because that's just the system, and I've read tens of thousands of hashtag HJB comments over the years. Do you think that the FBI is having Chris Laundrie see if he can identify anything from that campsite that they found yesterday? This is the CNN report now, and this was on Cuomo's show last night, the campsite that they found there. And that is another variable here, another board, a piece on the chessboard, if you will. We talked about the elevated presence of law enforcement there yesterday, the drone, the K-9, just 15 vehicles total combing through Carlton Reserve on the Mayaca side yesterday. Then, of course, the details, and Josh, I was following you on Twitter last night, the details come out about Chris Laundrie's potential involvement as far as assisting law enforcement. That all, of course, blew up on social media.
Right.
And then on Chris Cuomo's show last night, we have this source that indicates that there was a campsite, and now people asking about whether or not that, if it all kind of fits in here, and that's why Chris Laundrie is here at the campsite today.
Well, that's interesting too, because we don't know if that's true. That's CNN's source. We don't know where that source came from. We have not heard anything about a campsite, so it's important to note that that's CNN reporting that, and whoever their source is sounds like a good source, because if they have somebody on the inside of that search, that's pretty impressive, because the FBI is very tight-lipped about what's going on there. Or they're hearing back from the search and a family member or some member connected to the family is giving them that information. But we cannot confirm that. But that was my point earlier. Maybe they're bringing him out to see something that's bigger than being able to put in a bag and bring to the house to have him confirm.
Let's go through now some of those. We're waiting for Eagle to get back airborne here, folks. Let's get to some of those ones where I said now that going a little bit deep down the rabbit hole here. I really like to feature as many comments here as possible, a variety of different comments here as possible, but with a story that has received this much attention, and there's been so much theorizing going on here, so much baseless storytelling that has been going on here that has launched from fact and then gone into the periphery of just baseless storytelling here, and people asking, is this possible? Is that possible? Oh, this could be possible. That means it is possible. There's so many questions here in our queue that aren't really rooted in reality, but we can bring them up here to at least kind of talk to you about some of these things that you've been reading online. And that's part of what we do here at WFLA Now. The idea here is with interactive journalism here that we can, instead of just let the social media comment section run wild, and we know no matter what we do, it's going to run wild across all platforms, we can at least talk to you here about some of the things you're reading online and tell you whether or not they are rooted in fact, whether or not they are baseless in fiction, or whether or not there's kind of this gray area where we just don't know the answer to that question. But we might have an update here. Okay, so is there... Understood. Okay. The decision...
Uh-oh. You going to break the news?
Do you want to do it?
I got nothing to lose.
I'll do it. I started this stream, and
this is your stream, brother. You get to break the bad news.
Eagle 8 HD is not returning.
The Eagle has been grounded.
Eagle is grounded, not returning, and as I understand it, it is a resource-based decision. We have, of course, been accumulating so many hours.
Seriously, how many hours in the air?
I've been here for a few years at WFLA.
And you know what I love about it? I'm getting
that?
comments from Twitter and just saying, hey, get the chopper over there now. Like I have a switch I can flip and say, hey, guys, just put the chopper up over there. You don't have an idea how many resources it takes just to get that chopper up in the air and to fly there and to come back.
And I want to reference...
And the expense.
The tweet yesterday that I made while we have this opportunity. So before I do that, let me just kind of address Eagle 8 HD is returning to Tampa, will not be going back to the site here due to... For now.
That could change.
That could change. To echo exactly what Josh, JB, and JB here in lockstep.
Never say never.
Never say... See, now you're JB cubed. You just went JB squared, and now it's JB cubed because it's JB, and then the JB that you just referenced would never say never. But Eagle 8 HD returning to Tampa due to resources here, and I have never covered a story here at WFLA where this amount of hours and this amount of fuel and this amount of money was committed to one story in particular so much. When we look back at the amount of Eagle flights that were committed to this story, the pie chart is going to be very one-sided with this story.
But look, it's a huge story. I mean, it's in our backyard. It's like the whole nation, the whole world is talking about this story. So we want to make sure we give you as much as we can on the coverage.
Yep. And we'll continue to get through the rest of the questions and comments here in the queue. Let me just really quickly address what happened last night here, because it speaks to this. It speaks to this, okay? So last night, we were, of course, hearing so many different rumblings and unconfirmed reports out there as to the happenings and the occurrences at Carlton Reserve here. Now, people are just like, oh, you just... It's simple. Like, don't you have like a million news crews there? Yeah, but we're not in the reserve. We don't know what's going on in the reserve. And really our only lens to be able to tell you what is going on at the Carlton Reserve is having Eagle 8 in the air. So there was a conversation here based on all the unconfirmed reports, and I was part of this conversation here in our newsroom as to whether or not Eagle was going to make a second trip back there to determine whether or not some of these unconfirmed reports were actually rooted in reality. And I put out on Twitter saying they're unconfirmed, exactly what I'm saying now, that there are unconfirmed reports of some activity, escalated activity at the Carlton Reserve. A stream is possible, could be nothing, could be something. And I've said that many times, could be something, could be nothing. And there was a discussion here. We did send Eagle 8 HD. And that was every time that we send Eagle 8 HD, especially from Tampa all the way down to Carlton Reserve back to Tampa, that, speaking to what Josh and I have just been talking about, that's a sizable amount of resources. It is easier for us to do a stream with Eagle rather than hold back. And it was a very difficult decision last night to not do that stream. But we want to, of course, bring you coverage when there is something meaningful, a development that you need to know about there. We could have done a stream last night and just told you that, oh, it's the same as what we told you in the afternoon, but we held back, and it was difficult to do so because of the amount of resources. And of course, we're a news organization. Of course, that when we spend the amount of money to send Eagle 8 HD to the other side of our coverage area, that we want to get as much, we want to be as financially efficient as possible here, but it was difficult, and that's because of our commitment here to you to always try to bring you developments as they occur and not try to just go live for the sake of being live. Does that,
yeah,
Josh, does that make sense?
I think to add to that, a lot of people are frustrated if we're not giving them more coverage, but you got to realize a full operational newsroom has so many stories to cover, and there's, Florida, as you know, is a hotspot for news. It always is. There's so much news going on, as most states, but Florida especially, we have a lot to cover. So we only have one helicopter, and it can't be dedicated to this case all day long. So there's going to be events where we have to take it somewhere else, or we have to jump off to cover something else. You had to do tropic coverage yesterday.
Yep.
There's other stories. We have the Lightning starting soon. The Tampa Bay Lightning team's getting ready to have their home opener. We have the Rays now in the playoffs. So there's other things that we have to focus on, but I get the frustration from the viewers because they're all in on this case and they want to know every single development.
Yeah, it's WFLA now, not Gabby Petito or Brian Laundrie now,
right.
And it's very difficult to tell you about a stream that may or may not happen, and then I tell you that it doesn't happen, but that's because we're making these decisions here, these hard decisions here as to whether or not a stream is worthy of developments that may or may not be occurring. Sure. But I do that on my WFLAJB Twitter and Instagram and Facebook account to give you a heads up, so that because we stream spontaneously, and I want you to be able to be there for those streams. Like if we just randomly stream and you were eating dinner and you missed it, and then you're like, JB, why didn't you give us a heads up? Why didn't you tell us a little bit in advance? Well, that's what I have to do here, and sometimes we are going to stream in that scenario. Other times we're not, and last night, of course, we did not. Let's get to, let's kind of rapid fire here through the queue. Again, if you're just joining us, Eagle 8 HD is not returning to the Carlton Reserve due to resources and conserving resources.
For now.
Thank
I'm going to
you.
always just throw that in there for the people. For now.
For now.
There is hope.
It could change. Let's get to the rest of the queue here, and some of the comments that have been coming in here. And again, these are now the comments going, as I referenced earlier, we're all circling back here. These are the comments now that go a little bit deep into the rabbit hole. And we're going to kind of talk to you about this. This is the interactive journalism part that I was telling you about. Debbie's comment we just had. Let's get to Brenda Hicks Castleberry, #HJB, #HJosh. Perhaps they offered immunity to parents if they bring him home alive? Just a thought. And this is again deep question down the rabbit hole here, but I can't envision this scenario, Josh. And
no, I think there's too many questions to even put that on the table. They don't know. Technically, they don't know who killed Gabby Petito or how she died. I mean, homicide, but they don't know the manner of death or who is responsible, and if there are any people involved in that. So I don't think they would offer up such a blanket immunity just to bring him back alive. But that's a deep question, Brenda. I think that's a good question. My opinion, I just don't think they would offer that this early in the investigation.
I agree. Katie Zent, #KJB. Could they just be separating the parents, maybe trying different tactics to get them to say something? This, again, down the rabbit hole here, really deep down the rabbit hole with some of these questions and comments that are coming in here. But Katie, that would be under the assumption that they're having conversations right now with Roberta Laundrie. And there's no indication right now that they're talking to Roberta Laundrie. It's just Chris, who you see here in the center of your screen, at Carlton Reserve. And I'm sure that there are conversations being had. I'm sure that they're, that's why he's there today. But to say that they're being separated specifically to see if you can get one to say something versus the other, it just made
me think of something. It'd be interesting though, is the conversation between Chris and the attorney on how to act out on the search, how to respond to questions, is he just silent? That's an interesting thing to think about, because what happens if he's being peppered with questions from the FBI while they're searching?
That's a good point.
I wonder how he was coached to handle that scenario, because the FBI, they want all the answers.
He could say, I'm not answering that question at this time, and under the advisement of my attorney. I mean, that's something that he could be.
To be a fly in the woods out there, that'd be an interesting thing to see.
Yes. And
or an alligator.
They're very. I was going to say, Justin Rogers got a great shot yesterday of an enormous grasshopper. So I was going to say, be a grasshopper next to them.
There you go.
They're big. The grasshoppers,
Florida style.
Oh my God,
cicadas.
The cicadas too.
Those are big.
Again, it's not Cancun, folks. It's not on a beach with a margarita being here at the Carlton Reserve. People thinking that it's just leisurely Florida life.
Paradise.
It's not. Let's get to Shannon Marie, again, down the rabbit hole here. #KJB. Could it be the father is tired of the media presence and tired of covering? Maybe he's ready to come forward finally? Is this the fatigue now of Chris Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie getting sick and tired of hearing, folks?
Well, look what happened with the sister. She got tired of the protesters and came out and talked to them. And do we still know if she has representation? I don't know that. I don't know if she has an attorney or not, because an attorney would say, don't talk to protesters and don't talk to the media.
Isn't it fascinating, though? Fascinating at how the narrative online has changed since Cassie Laundrie came out and had a conversation with those demonstrators and did the Good Morning America interview. The narrative has really... It's not
positive for her?
I think that based on what I'm seeing on social media...
maybe?
Listen, she's not going to convince everybody.
No.
But she certainly earned points with a lot of people on social media, based on the comments that I've been reading over the last few days, earned a lot of points by coming forward, at least, again, a lot of people reading into it and basing it on what she said and her body language, expressing sincerity there with what she had to say. And the narrative has really changed. We haven't heard much about Cassie this, Cassie that over the last 24 hours.
No, but I think you're going to have a lot of people saying in defense of that or response to that, is hard to believe Gabby wasn't brought up on that visit to the campground.
Totally true.
Because if she was, she would have had an answer for the media to say, oh yeah, we brought her up. And he said, oh, she's fine. Or whatever he would have said. But she didn't offer that up. So there could be some things she still knows that we don't.
Oh, I have something to share. I forgot about this. Last night, when this was all coming out on social media, I get a text from Gabby's mom, Nicole Schmidt, and we're talking back and forth here while all of this is unfolding regarding Chris Laundrie and the assisting in the investigation. And Nicole and I were just kind of shooting some text back and forth here. And there was one thing that she said that really struck me. And I said, can I say this? Can I read this for our WFLA Now audience tomorrow? Would that be okay? And she indicated that it would be okay. And as far as Chris Laundrie's involvement here, her words are, it's straight up weird. I feel like I'm in a bad Netflix documentary.
And there are a few of those.
But it's almost as if, and again, her and I were talking about, and I talked about this with our Twitter audience. I said, why now? Why now is he walking out of his home and going over to Carlton Reserve? Why not weeks ago? And this was some of the texting that was going on back and forth between Nicole and I. And she said, again, it's straight up weird. I feel like I'm in a bad Netflix documentary.
And I think until you find Brian, you're not going to get any of those answers. He's got to come forward or be found And then I think we'll start hearing more from the attorney, more from why this, why that, why did you guys do this? Obviously, they don't want to incriminate themselves with anything. They don't want to say anything or do anything. But yeah, to make a move like this late in the game is interesting because I don't know. It's just really a curious move this late in the game. And I don't know if it's strategic or not, or if really it's just like, hey, come check something out in the reserve. We want to get your eyeballs on it.
Ramona Hutchinson, #AJB. Has anyone heard if this has changed to search and recovery?
No.
Absolutely not. And if it was, that's major news. And it's something that we talk about when we break into our streaming coverage here, so to speak, and we tell you about it with a new stream.
I'm still trying to figure out if they have search dogs, cadaver dogs, or live scent dogs, or if they're using both. Yep. I've been wondering that question for weeks.
I know you've been on the dog and dogs question.
Dog and dogs, yeah.
Dog the bounty hunter.
Dog and bounty hunter's pretty quiet. I stay in touch with his team. They're still here, but they're staying pretty quiet.
Yep, and I'm very curious as to what changed there, because Dog the bounty hunter
spent a lot of time in the islands in Fort DeSoto, days and days. So I think they've either exhausted it, or I'm just not getting any updates on where they're at.
Stephanie Schaefer-Hahn, #AJB. Do you think the parents are getting involved now because they feel they are getting caught with trying to cover up where Brian is, so they might get off the hook at the end?
Well, that's what I think. This is what we're talking about, the strategy of how this timeline is changing now, and their willingness to help out. And the attorney is actually deflecting that to say law enforcement is asking for their help. So it's very careful wording on how he's putting it out there. And I've tried to press him on that. As he just put out the general statement, he keeps referring to that, but wondering, why is law enforcement asking him, hey, come out here now? Or has he wanted to go the whole time and now law enforcement's letting him? I mean, it's semantics trying to figure out who's right in this scenario.
We're gonna kind of bottom out here with this rabbit hole and with these last two comments here, because again, you can go down that hole very, very, and find yourself asking and answering questions rather that are just really out there. But we'll take these final two here. Jenny Etta, #AJB. Is it possible that Chris was brought in because authorities do in fact have the hideout and fear that Brian will take his life once confronted? Are they fearful for Brian's safety?
I think that's a really valid point.
And Donna McAdams here, #AJB. Is it possible that they are now using his dad so to convince him to surrender without incident, knowing where he may be? Two back-to-back comments here, people asking, are the FBI really honed in now on a specific spot, and they want to bring in Chris Laundrie here to help ensure that this ends peacefully without incident? That's
not too far-fetched, in my opinion. I think think of that scenario. Think of that scenario in any other case when they're getting closer, and as a suspect or person of interest, which he's not a suspect in this case, but a person of interest, or in another case where you are a suspect and they know they're getting closer and closer and closer, and you know what's going to happen. I mean, that's who's going to calm you down in that situation. A loved one, a parent. It's a great strategy. It's a move that could make or break the entire case. So I don't think that's too far-fetched. That's a great point to make.
Anna Patterson, #AJB, best coverage, watching from Australia, down under. Hey, big shout out to our international audience. I've been trying to find out if WFLA.com is accessible from Europe.
I was going to bring that up because so many people are having trouble viewing it. They use a VPN to try to access it, so I was going to send that out today, but we should find out.
And the VPN does work from Europe?
Yeah, that's what they're recommending for these people who can't see the website.
Okay.
And it works.
Okay. So some VPN, VPNs usually do cost money, but that's a way for our international audience here. If you can't access.
I don't know why it's blocked.
I don't know either. That's a great question.
It could be a security thing because, for websites, you can have DDoS attacks and sometimes block entire countries. But I don't know the makeup of our technology here.
It speaks to the amount of people that are trying to get to that article hub on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. Yeah. Again, we are here. Josh and I very much kind of faces here on WFLA now, but it does not speak to the amount of people that we have working here around the clock here, providing article content in the WFLA.com, WFLA app article hub here. I'm very curious. Speaking of our site, if the site doesn't work, then the app doesn't work, right? Could somebody in Europe download the WFLA app and get those articles as well? I'm not sure, Josh.
Reach out if you're out
We'll,
there.
we'll find out.
Otherwise, I can jump on a plane quick and fly out and just give it a test.
Josh Benson, everybody, that you'll
I
see
will
on
see you soon in
WFLA
Australia.
News Channel 8. Anything else you want to add before we let you go, Josh?
No, I think it's just a big day to watch this all unfold. We haven't seen Chris away from his wife, Roberta. We haven't seen him do much outside of the house. So to see him get in his truck and leave alone to head to the reserve and now help in the search for his son is very interesting. It's a big plot on the timeline, and we just want to know how we got to this point and why it's now 3 weeks later and he's just starting to search. A lot of you brought up good questions. Is it they've identified something and they need his help they can't bring to the house, so they got to bring him there? Is there a situation where they may have Brian in the in a location and they're fearful for what he could do, so they want the parent there? Very good points, all good points, and we just don't know. So let's wait to find out, but we'll stay on top of it. I'll be on Twitter at WFLAJosh if you want to check out what I post there. Otherwise, always be on WFLA Now. JB doing a great job here running the show and keeping you updated. And hey, if the chopper gets back up, you'll be the first to know.
I want the chopper back up, but
I
don't make the
big bill.
I don't make the decisions here. So everyone,
It's a big bill.
It's a big bill,
And it's a gas bill. No, it's a fuel bill.
We always ask for feedback as far as, but again, it's a decision that goes beyond me. So don't go onto my Twitter or Instagram or anything like that and blow up. JB is the reason that the chopper's not in the air. That's not how it works. It goes well beyond. Josh Benson, everybody, you'll catch him tonight, everyone.
Yes, guys, thanks.
On WFLA News Channel 8. First at 4 o'clock newscast coming your way here. Again, the Article Hub on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. Every update that we have, every statement from Stephen Bertolino, every new report that has been coming out here over the last several days. We originally had some, I'll just speak for myself. There was originally some concern as to how much traction this story would lose if there weren't developments, but there have been developments. And and more than anything, your attention, wherever you're watching from, Australia, Florida, Washington State, somebody said earlier, if you're watching from Canada, the UK, wherever you are watching from, the interest that gets poured into this story keeps things moving forward as far as our ability to talk with our audience here live on WFLA Now. So we really appreciate all of our commenters. There were thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of #HeyJB, #HeyJosh, and #HeyPaul questions and comments across all of our platforms. We try to get to as many as we can. We try not to repeat the same question twice. It can be difficult, but we always try to do our very, very best here and try to be as transparent, open, and honest with you and just have a conversation. I think that so many news operations out there ignore their social media comment sections. I'm very much here to tell you, with interactive journalism and the way that it's taking off, I'm very much here to tell you that I'm the opposite. I want to talk with you guys. I want to talk with wherever you're watching from, whether it's Reddit. Hello to Reddit. Hello to YouTube. Jenna, Danny, Christine, Rebecca joining us here on YouTube. I'll give some shout outs here to Reddit, some of the more recent Reddit commenters here. Just again, I want to make sure that you guys are very much aware that we are here to have this conversation with you. Captain Dust 1000, LOL Duke, Wavy Lady 11. I wish I was a unicorn. Commenting here. Hungry Helmet. I could just read. You guys would probably be very entertained if I just read through some of the Reddit names that are here as well. I can't read that one. That one's inappropriate. Okay, so we're going to move on from Reddit. Some of the commenters joining us on Facebook. Jody, Susie, Gail, Missy, Teresa, Billy Joe, Paul, Phyllis, Mary, Lori, Linda, Kim, Sydney. We're here to have a conversation here with you, and we're not the news operation that's just going to kind of ignore you guys out there. We want to be involved in the conversation because we know that there's so much out there that isn't true, and we can kind of help here as far as telling you what is true. So really appreciate all the comments that we got here. Can't get to them all, never could. It would take us years to. We try our very best to get to as many here on stream. Eagle 8 HD, if it's back live, I'm sure that our flight radar community on Reddit will be right on it as far as monitoring Eagle 8 HD, but conversations will be had here as far as how we utilize Eagle 8 HD in the future, make it as efficient as possible for our viewers here, and I'll keep you posted on my WFLAJB Twitter, my WFLAJB Instagram, and my WFLAJB Facebook page. Those 3 places, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, it's all the same, WFLAJB. If you're looking for advanced notice, a heads up as to when we'll be back here live on WFLA Now, I try to give you about an hour heads up. And that way we can bring in Paul, we can bring in Josh, we can bring in Masa, we can bring in Walt, we can bring in Justin and Allison and the entire WFLA, award-winning WFLA team here, and have that conversation here with you. But as I noted on Twitter last night, streaming is different than TV. You don't have the same time every day where you can be guaranteed that we're going to be here. Some days we stream at noon. Some days it's been 1. Today we were live at 11:30. There have been times where we've done streams at 5 o'clock or 5:30 in the evening. So streams happen at different times. I'll try my very best to give you a heads up when a stream is possible within the hour, and I'll do that on my WFLAJB Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, whatever your favorite platform is. You can follow me there and get that advanced kind of heads up. This is, again, the video of this morning. Chris Laundrie leaving his home here in Northport, just him, solo, without his wife, Roberta, heading to the Carlton Reserve there on the Myakka side for the search efforts here that are ongoing for his son, Brian Laundrie. If there's any new developments, if Eagle is back in the air or there's a significant new development with Chris Laundrie there at Carlton Reserve, we're back here with you live on WFLA Now across all the platforms that we're on live right now. Wherever you're watching from live right now, we would be back live in this place, provided that, of course, we have a new live stream forthcoming. So, right now, you can head over to WFLA.com, the WFLA app. That's where we have the latest on Gabby Petito, the latest on Brian Laundrie. The article hub lives there as far as the latest developments here on these stories, on this story and many more here in the Tampa Bay area. It's all for you on WFLA.com and the WFLA app. I'll be heading over to my WFLAJB Facebook, Twitter, Instagram to try to answer some comments there, comment back at some of the commenters there, try to answer some more questions on those 3 accounts. But in the meantime here, we're going into standby mode, and we'll be back here live on WFLA Now with any additional developments here on the latest with Gabby Petito or the search for Brian Laundrie.